There you go.
Well, g'day campers. How are you? And welcome to another Thursday Night Live. Coming in tonight at 7 p.m. And tonight's pretty serious conversation. Something that I brought the A game to because suicide. It's a big thing going on at the minute. It's a very heavy word with a very heavy conversation. So I brought in Alan Stevens, or Alan, who actually runs the Campfire Project. Thank you very much. John Hope. John Hope, business and life strategist. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Thank you.
Good, thank you. And Lance Picioane from the Love Me, Love You Foundation. How are you, mate?
Yeah, Scotty. How are you, mate? Alan, John, you well?
Hey.
Yeah, giddy up. And I'm not gonna muck around too much tonight because suicide's affecting our community something severe. And in the media, that we don't talk about it. There's a bit of an unspoken rule that they don't do that because they're a lot worried about copycat suicides. But at the moment, we need to be talking about it. We need to actually open up the true conversation about suicide. Talk about the effects of the family, but more important, the individuals, because we need to change the way we're dealing with it because at the moment, it's not working. Lance and I are both in Melbourne. Numbers are growing exponentially. So we're here to talk about it. So in that, I'm actually going to ask for Lance to open up. Seeing though he's in Melbourne, dealing with it firsthand, what's your experience at the minute, mate?
Scotty, mate, it's you say it's not just now that it's an important conversation, but we do say that every day. Like no matter if we're in COVID period or we're not in COVID period, every day is a great opportunity to normalise the very conversations around what's happening in our community with suicide, mental illness, and everything else, right? So take away the fear factor that a lot of people are putting into this COVID period, because that's actually not helping either. In terms of trying to normalise the very language around it and normalise the very behaviours around it, so we can make sure that people feel safer and supportive enough to actually have these types of conversations. There's all the reports going around about the increased and the heavily increased rate of suicide and mental illness, especially from our direct experience in Melbourne Metro and Victoria, but from all the relationships and programs that we deliver across the country, people are just finding it really hard. But there is actually no real-time data of the fact of what's happening in terms of the spikes with mental illness or suicide. So they're talking about the modelling behaviour that, people have been putting stuff out. And this it actually gets me a little bit, right? Because it actually adds to the stigma of the fear stigma, talking about this sort of stuff. Because people are saying, there's been 1,000 suicides that have happened in the last 4 months. That's the normal world. That's the normal rate, yeah? So in Australia, in our country alone, there's over 3,000 suicides that happen on average every single year. Yeah, across the world, there's a person that dies from suicide every 40 seconds. Yeah. That's the reality. That's what we're dealing with. So take away the COVID period, people are uncertain with what their life's about at the moment. That fear, the restriction, the isolation that is being caused, and then it's just more around the uncertainty. Yeah. People are uncertain. Even the most robust of people in our communities are feeling the pinch, just because of not just so much the direct impact that it's had on them, but the people around them. They might have people that they're looking after through the workplace, the people in their members of their community are being impacted. There's financial hardships happening. DV, the domestic violence is increased because there's an increase in usage of alcohol and substances due to the fact of the people are freaking out, and it's become their coping strategy. Yeah. So, mate, it's a big flow-on effect, and the ripple effect that this COVID period has had on a range of people going out and out and out. The impact, you're not going to be able to measure it for years to come. They're actually the exact modelling, the exact data that comes from it. But just the very conversations that we need to be having is around the same thing we have everyone in this COVID period. That we just need to be more supportive and more inclusive of everybody's feelings and experiences and create a greater place of acceptance. Because we all go through shit, yeah? We do. This is our life. This is what we do. As humans, we rock the daily stresses of life every single day. But we're as Aussies, particularly as Aussies in our culture, it's always been a way of just deal with it. Get on with your crap. Yeah. Harden up, man up. We can go on with all these words that we keep talking about. You'll allude to it pretty well, I reckon. But that's what our culture's been like. But 2020 is different, yeah? But it's different from a whole range of things. But, it's just about how we, become more accepting of the fact that everyone's experiences and, appreciate people's ability and people's ability to want to talk, but just how they talk as well. Everyone has different communication channels. And I know, Alan, you're big on this. The communication channels that people have, you got to respect that. I myself, I like talking, as you can tell, but I also like just being really quiet. Certain things that happen to me, I like to have my 10 minutes, 15 minutes of just, I need to process that in here. I need to just be here for a minute, and then I'll talk. But people always, talk, come here, tell me your problems, Just let me process, respect my situation, So there you go. Anyway.
But awesome. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit further, a little bit later, because that's one of the most important things at the minute. Like I'm actually seeing a lot of great men at the minute being men. We're learning how to be men. We're learning how to talk. Suicide does affect men more than anything else. So that's why we're going to talk about men right now, I feel. Obviously it's women as well. I definitely think that's the case. But at the moment, men are dropping like flies, and I can't.
Yeah, totally, Scotty. And mate, I think because I've been reading some great research reports that have come out from the last couple of years, that a female is actually twice as likely to actually attempt suicide than a male.
Yep.
In terms of self-harm reporting and incidents that come through that way, a female is twice as likely, and the amount of cases that are actually reported, it's 2 to 1 female to male. But it's actually the actual people, the male that die by suicide is 3 to 1. So it's just it's a whole issue. Everyone's community issues. We're all in this together. Don't let's separate the idea of male versus female, mate. This is a whole community issue. And we understand how more that we can pull that together as a community, as a society, that we're all got each other's back. And it's not just because I'm a male that you're going to support me more than a female, and I'm not supporting you just because you're a female, sort of thing. We're got this shit together, mate. It's impacting. The conversation, the amount of conversations that I have to have with family members and people's of the community, from people that have either attempted or have suicided within the week, of this last 3 months, it's high. But that's just the general awareness and acceptance that we're putting on as a community. The fact that people can have those conversations and they're not embarrassed of the fact that someone knows someone that has done it, which hasn't been in the past. But
that's it.
No, that's very much the case. It's men and women. I mean, look, that's what the Campfire is about, right? It's about having conversations. There's no taboo topics. We're talking about every single topic because that's how we grow. And it's a unity. It is men and women, and I'll let Alan dive in on that, because that's been it from the start.
That's it. Well, the whole thing is that we, as you say, we're in it together. That was why #WeTogether, to help men to become better men. The recipients of that are their wives and their children, their partners and their children. And so it's not putting anybody in front of anybody else. And that's why I wanted the men to start talking first, so that they could find it was a safe place and they could open up and start talking the way they can when they feel safe. The women to hear that, and then the women to be able to come in with the men, because we're working towards finding solutions. Women will commit suicide, as you said, twice as many times as men, but the men are far more successful at it, because a lot of the case with the women, it's a call for help. They're hoping for somebody to come in and help them, whereas the men, it's a final feeling of desperation. But no matter which one takes their life, it affects everyone around them. Out on TV, one person dies, 70 people around them are going to be affected. And we do need to talk. As you say, we've got to look at the words we're using and realise that our attitude to it is man up and all those sort of things. But we've also got to look at the other words we're using, like social distancing. I cringed every time I saw it. And especially when I walked into the supermarket, and every metre or so, metre and a half, here's a bloody thing sitting on the pavement with a couple of feet and social distancing. We're social beings. We're physically distanced, which I can handle, but I can never handle being socially distanced. And when you're reading that over and over, it's like water dripping on a rock. It wears it away. It's like water torture. And so we've got to really look at that, but we've also got to look at how we then talk to each other about it. I know that you want to move into towards the end of this, finding solutions and things like that. But as I put up in the Campfire Project the other day, it's a matter of holding space for the person, as Lance has just said, not just asking the person to start talking, but first just sit with them. Let them sit in that space and then allow them to say what they want to say. And then again, 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. Look and listen and take it all in before you make any comments on it.
Yeah.
And while you're listening, you can put the words that we normally use about man up and everything else aside, because we're too quick in bringing those out. If we listen more, we don't feel like bringing it out then, because we understand the person more, and those terms just don't have a place.
Yeah. Well, I 100% agree. And look, Alan, you and I have been a part of a couple of conversations lately that we're actually having some great success inside of that. And they were inside the Victorian Brotherhood. And well, I will talk about that a little bit later. But I would like to talk to John now, if that's okay. And I want to dive into just a little bit about the social impact of suicide. And John, you've had a fair bit of experience with this. Could you share with us a little bit of your knowledge inside of that, so we can have a bit of a in-depth look into your life with it?
Sure. Yeah, suicide. For me, it's a multi-dimensional thing. I've experienced it extensively as a police officer, where I've had to investigate it, had to turn up, had to deliver death messages to family, had to turn up to crime scenes, and they become a crime scene. You know, I've turned up at a bloke who's gassed himself in a car, and I've opened the door to I was checking for signs of life, because he didn't have signs of lividity. He didn't look like he died. And then I got hit with the car, and I ended up with blue nails and having to get treated by the ambulance as well. And that happened within 3 seconds. Yep. You know, it's just the impact it has on everyone, you know, and that's something that you've got to do. You've got to make people accountable for it, like if you're talking to them, because they've got to be aware that they're accountable for the ripple effects that it has, and the effect it has on others. But also, you've got to find out what the pain is, you know. And suicide, most people think suicide's an immediate thing. It's not always an immediate thing. You get people who are drug addicts. That's a slow course suicide. You know, you get someone who ODs on drugs. It's the same pain, and they're trying to self-medicate. So for me, that's a suicide as well. I've written a few things down just to keep me on track. You know, like I've just had, like I was going through it today, and I'm just going, shit, that's right, I did that. You know, like I've had a young Aboriginal kid, 10 years old, that had a knife trying to kill himself, that I had to disarm. I've disarmed people trying to kill themselves, you know, and then turning up after people have done that. I've been there when I've literally been 4 meters away when someone threw himself in front of a train, you know, and it's that cry to help. You do have to address the problem, but you also have to address their accountability. Like you've got to build them up, not only where they're weak, but they've got to see that, you know, this is going to affect other people. You know, it tends to be a little bit more of like a gargoyle in the church. You know, it warns off evil spirits. It sort of has that effect. Then, you know, with the police, I was with the Royal Commission, and then I saw a lot of cops with all that committing suicide. So people I was working with were committing suicide. They brought in merit-based policing, which created an atmosphere for bullying. So a lot of those people were like friends, people I knew, killing themselves, either, you know, putting a gun to a head or hanging, but also even slowly with prescribed and non-prescribed drug addictions and overdoses. So it's not a simple thing as far as where it comes from. You know, it's and then also myself. Like I was diagnosed as being with about probably 2/3 of the station in 1997 as being suicidal. Like we all wore it as a badge of honour. They were trying to bully us, make us do more, and we couldn't do any more. They said we had a time management problem. We had no time to manage, and a lot of the stations were deemed suicidal they put us into that category. I don't think I was. I was stressed, but I would never consider myself suicidal at that point.
Which station was that in? Which station was that in?
City of Sydney, so right in the heart. Darlinghurst, you know, sorry, not Darlinghurst, Darling Harbour, Chinatown, George Street, right in town. Yeah. So then years later, when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I just watched my uncle. He'd just gone through the pancreatic liver cancer, the real bad one. Within 3 months, he went from doing 100 push-ups a day in his early 60s to passing away. And then I got diagnosed with cancer, and I'm just sitting there going, and I felt the spiral. You never just get there. It's a spiral. And then when you spiral down, you've got to spiral back up. And that's where the person needs to know. You can't just, there's no one word's going to fix it. You've got to get the support around that sort of thing. And I remember going, I got diagnosed with cancer, and this is when I first met Alan. So Alan knows this. And I was there going, I don't know if I can do that. And I felt myself spiral. I felt my physiology changing. I felt everything spiral. And then I turned, then I got to I'm going, shit, I got kids. I really cannot do that to my kids, and that's where I come back to accountability. You got to be accountable for it. So then I had to, go on the long journey of going through all the 8 operations and nearly dying from chemotherapy twice and going blind from the steroids from the chemotherapy and having to have lens replacement. Then they burnt me too much for radiotherapy, and I had to have liposuction in my arm. And now I have lymphedema today. I'm not wearing a thing on my arm, but normally I do. So yeah, it's. I think you got to look at it as like suicide. There's the death part of suicide, right? But there's also the intent and the reason. And you've got to look into that when you deal with someone. And if you can't do it, like in the police, you use these things. Cognitive interviewing techniques. So when you deal with someone, and it's basically 3-dimensional questions about a 1-dimensional lie. Like lies are 1-dimensional; they're not 3-dimensional. Now, if you start talking to someone who's struggling with something, and if you start asking them 3-dimensional questions about that one particular thing that they're struggling with, they can find themselves. A person convinced against their wills of the same opinion self. So once you show them, well, hang on, is that really the case? Like, could this happen? Could that happen? And once they start doing that, there's hope. And when you're in a place of despair, the opposite of despair is hope. So it's about getting that hope for people and then getting them on their journey back to it. So I've sort of gone on.
No, good.
And one of the things, like what Lance said before about females, that was so true. And I always believe that until only just recently, within a couple of days, I had a friend of mine who's got a daughter that's self-harming. Now, when I was in the police for 20 years, females between 13 and 17, and a doctor, quite a few doctors and psychs were saying there's some sort of hormonal thing, and there's, but they self-harm, and it's a cry for help, But it was rarely boys. Like Lance said, it was rarely boys. But my friend just went up to John Hunter Hospital with her daughter that was taken in and put into the psych ward. She's 16, 17. Pardon me. And she said, there's so many guys. It was like 60-40. And I've gone, that doesn't seem right. And she goes, no. And she was talking to the psychs and said, I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if it's what we're going through. But she said, in guys, and Lance alluded to that before, there's an increase. There's an increase. And we're coming into, when you're in the police, typically suicides start happening between November and December. It's that's when most of them happen. Coming up to Christmas, they realise their losses. There's all sorts of family drama, and that's when people feel the hopelessness and helplessness and get to that point. And we're coming up to that time. And we're coming up to that time that's going to be, as Lance said before, it's accelerated by COVID. We're coming into some uncharted territory come, couple of weeks before Christmas and after, because it's before and after, and so, yeah, I don't know. It's a very serious topic. It's something that's, I think we're in uncharted territories, even though like we were before, but I think it's even more so now. So getting people the help and support, but also concentrating on, people that feel that helplessness and abandonedness. And, like especially you guys in Victoria, I have no idea what what you guys are going through. You know,
Yeah.
it's but we've got to be real. And the first thing you do when something happens, you've got to be able to accept it. So you got to accept, okay, this is where I'm at. And it's usually that acceptance, that not getting to that acceptance, it's not there. And one other thing I wanted to say too, I said in the last one, and Alan, I did a course with Alan on the facial profiling. When you deal with someone and you've got the irises in the eye, when your adrenal glands are going, when you're in fight or flight, when you're in stress mode, when your adrenal glands produce one of the things, I can't remember the name of it, but it actually decreases the size of your iris. So if you can see white when someone's looking at the camera, not down or up, but looking straight, above one of them, either above or below, they're stressed. If you can see it above, they're suicidal. And it's the body's chemistry does that and gives you that warning.
Yeah, just on that, while people are listening in, that the first level of stress is when the lights are on, but no one's home. They're tired, they're fatigued. We see that, we work long hours, and we'll see it in a friend's face very quickly. Where the irises start to change, one iris gets smaller and the other one's still the same size. So one goes. This is what we call causality. This is when the vision actually is different as well, because the two eyes aren't focused the way they were before. That's when you look over your shoulder, about to pull out from the sidewalk or to step out, you can't even see the bus that's there and you get hit by the bus. When it gets beyond that is when the other iris comes down. So if you can see the size of the iris is much less than the two whites put together, it's like they used to say, you can't trust somebody who's got beady eyes, really tiny little irises, not pupils, but irises. That wasn't because they weren't trustworthy. It's because they were in the level of melancholy. We say both have gone down. Life's crap. It's always going to be crap. That's the way they're feeling. And they shut down completely. And so they don't talk to us. So we don't trust them because they're not talking to us. But we're not realizing that they're in stress and they really need us to talk to them, but to draw them out in a careful way. Because the way that we were talking here before, we're talking about how we need to, as you said, John, they need to be accountable for their actions, know what the ramifications are going to be. We need to be talking about this, but we've got to be careful about the way in which we talk to them, that they're not withdrawing and feeling, that they're at fault. They're not at fault. It's a situation. And what we're doing is having a conversation so that they can overcome that situation. That point where they're suicidal because they think that they've let their family down and everything else. You only get that way if you're a responsible and strong person. When you carry too much weight on your shoulders, of course you're going to feel the weight. You can only carry so much. As they say, the straw that breaks a camel's back. So the people who may be feeling that depression and feeling like they're suicidal, stop and think if they're thinking they're weak, they're not. But then find the right people to talk to. John, can I just ask you a quick question? When you said about the boys with self-harming, what age are they? Did they say? Were they old?
Yeah, they're juveniles. So you're looking at 14 to 18, like pre-18. So they're the younger kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite surprised that was just only 4 days ago.
Yeah, long before we got to this situation, like 2018, etc., it was girls between the age of 11 and 15. More than 5% will attempt suicide. The boys were nowhere near that number, but for the boys from age 15 to 19, they were the age of the youth. They were the ones that committed suicide at the highest rate. They were the most successful. So it showed that the girls were a call for help. Self-harming is also, I feel the pain, so I am alive. They do that so they can feel alive as well.
Yeah, well, that's with the self-harming, and doctors and psychs talk about, they're going across the road, not up the street. Like up the street's where you hurt yourself, cross the road's where you don't. That's the cry for help. And most people that attempt it, and most of the people who do it, are going as what they call across the street. And, you can sort of think that that's callous, but it's not. It's a direct way to identify where someone's at. And you can identify the cry for help and give help accordingly. But it's not just, it's a worldwide problem, and it's a part of society everywhere in that, like when kids are going through, like my youngest son's doing his HSC with the coronavirus and all that, and every single kid that's doing the HSC, my God, they're all over the place. Absolutely all over the place. And I can only imagine it'll be even worse in Victoria. Like, our kids are back at school. You know, it's just so we're just in some unprecedented times, and you know we're going to come through this, and I don't know what to predict, but there is going to be a problem, you know, and things are changing, and we've just got to see what happens on the other end and be aware of it. Like, it's good, you know, you, Scotty and Alan, you've taken this initiative to make people aware of it, and then get them around the people that can help them, you know, people with some experience and runs on the board, not people that haven't done it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that now, because like we've talked about suicide and the effects of the society. Let's start looking at what, you know, I'm going to ask you each, what do you do if someone's suicidal? I'm going to start with you, Lance. If you think someone's suicidal, what do you do?
Different. Every story, it's individualised in its approach, mate. Understanding the relationship you have with that person, from a stranger to that you see that might be jumping off a bridge, or to the very person that lives under your own roof. You know, understanding the different relationships and how you attack it is different. You know, and it's just being there, like that very situation of just sitting with them. You know, and not taking no for an answer, because there's going to be a lot of push, right? If it's a stranger or if it's a person you know, there's going to be a lot of push away. But without being annoying, you've got to stick fat with the experience, you know, and be there and process it. But and just say, it's just around, I'm here, and just along those sort of words and lines, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere, you know. But don't
be present. Yeah.
We got to be genuine with the fact that we're all beautiful. We're all beautiful human beings. Sometimes we just make the wrong choices. Yeah. Sometimes we make poor choices in what we do, and that's what it is, and that's life, and that's how we learn and work, right? But we're all genuine human beings that have got so much love and support and empathy to give, right? But there's a lot of fear that comes with when trying to deal with suicide or suicidal conversations or the mental health experiences, right? Is that there's a lot of fear that comes with thinking you're going to say the wrong thing. But it's not actually about saying anything. It's actually just being there. Before, the whole 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let that process happen. Appreciate the process. Create the space for that person to just be. And as John was saying before, that accountability thing, people have got to own their experience, mate. You put it back onto them. How does it make you feel? They're going to say, it makes me feel like shit. I want to die. No, you don't want to die. But what has that got you to bring to this? Why are we here? What are you going to do? What are we going to do moving forward? Who are we going to call? Who are we going to talk to? Who's the loved one that you want to speak to right now? Now, just bringing it back. You know, we do a lot of stuff with that. We have like a suicide prevention training program that we deliver, right? It's called Welfare Warrior, and it's about just being there, understanding the space, the process, and the words that you say in terms of just opening, ending it, and putting it back to the accountability and ownership of the person. Yeah, you're not there to be the answer. You're not there for professional help. You know, like I've been in this space for like 7 years now. I nearly suicided 9 years ago now. We're coming up to in 2 weeks' time was my 9th anniversary of my last suicide attempt. I didn't have anyone talk me down. I had to talk myself down at that situation, right? So that very experience, but it's about understanding what we do beforehand. Yeah, the very space we do beforehand. You know, people are going to suicide, and I'm not being an idiot. We're not going to save it. No matter how much work we do in this world, we're not going to save everyone. That's not the world. We can't do that. You can put a bloody $1 trillion into resourcing and programming and all that sort of stuff. You're not going to save everyone, and that is the sad reality of what we're living. But the very idea of what we can do is decrease the numbers. Yeah, we're not going to get that to zero. We can decrease the rate and the numbers by the amount of work that we do in the first place. Yeah. So all the resources that we're going through government and all the things that are coming through, mate, they go spending $250 million in treatment and all that sort of stuff, and it's at that sort of that high risk and then debilitating the hospitalisation stage. Yeah, where that's where shit's at. But then that's the top 30%. They get 70% of the funding, and then the bottom 70% of work that really needs to be done gets 30% of the funding, right? So the work that's been done in the community is taking a hell of a lot of work to be able to do. And the more work we can do in that space, allowing people the environment and the space and the conversation capacity and the processing ability as a community, stop we decrease those rates. But saying the very thing that I said is that you need to know yourself, and we say this a lot to people, is about you got to trust your guts. Trust your guts with their feeling, because we talked about before is that you get in a situation, even as trained as you could possibly be, you get into a situation you're like that, and there's so many experiences that John was saying that he saw before. There's that, holy shit, I don't know how I would deal with it is actually using direct contact from an experience from here to here. I have a lot of conversations in that front 70% and the post 100%. But in the direct experience that I've had with that one person, I haven't been there. But I've had a lot of phone conversations and a lot of one-on-one conversations in the lead-up component, not in the very direct experience. But everyone's different, and hopefully you never have to go through that. But that's the reality we're living in. And the very normality, and we talked about before, you talked about trying to read the eyes and the impact that has. Majority of people that actually suicide are at their happiest before they stop suicide. In the short period of time before they actually suicide.
Once they make the decision.
They make the decision, John.
Because that's what,
and just of where they're at. They've taken choice back, they've taken power back over their life because they're in that phase.
I find there's two types that I've experienced. It's those that have planned it and really spent time with it, and there's those the pressure is just built up and snap. Yeah.
But like Lance said before, Australians don't talk about it. When I was in the police in the 90s, around the late 80s, early 90s, they wanted to bring that, what was it called, Jerry Springer over to Australia?
Yep.
And Australians don't air their dirty laundry in public like the Americans do. You say to America, how are you? Oh, bloody hell, it's this, it's that. You say to an Aussie's just had he's lost his wife, his kids are bloody kicked out of school, the cat's left home, and how you going? Yeah, I'm all right. How you going? We don't talk about it. And like Lance said, we really have to open our mouths and be present, and not, like Lance said, be scared. Like sit there and go, oh shit, I'm going to say the wrong thing. You can't say the wrong thing to someone in that position. They're already there. You can't push them there. They're already there.
Yeah, well, if I can just go back for a moment, just on the indicators in the eyes, etc. As you said, Lance, there's two types, as you said, Scott. That those that just snap at that point, and you'll see that they're depressed right up to there. Others have planned it out, and now they get that feeling of relief that, hey, now I've got a solution to my problem, and they're happy. But the physical indicators will still be there. You'll see those long before they get to that point. Yeah. But what it means, I believe, we can throw a lot of money, as you've said, Lance, we can throw a lot of money at this and not get any real results. But there's something that all of us can do that costs us nothing. Scott, with your Sunday sessions, one of the things you told me about when you went running with the guys, the competition was to see who could get the most smiles out of people you went past. At the moment you've done that, those people smiled and everything else. It's what we can do about this is the time that we as individuals spend with other people. The communication that we have with them, just sitting with somebody who's depressed, for instance, not even talking to them, just sitting with them. And if they're, kicking around in the dirt, playing with something, doing the same thing, just spending that little bit of time, it won't be long before they, you start to get a bit of a communication going. It's spending time first of all. And then when they're ready to start talking, start listening. Watch what's going on, listen to what's going on, and don't give advice. If you've been through something and you've come out the other side, that's when I'd say to somebody, well, look, this is what I went through and this is how I came through it. But instead of telling them that they've got to do something, say, well, how would that work for you? Let them think about it, get into a conversation. If you haven't been through it, it's a case of, I haven't been through the stuff that you've been through, but would this work? Do you think this might be an idea? Make a suggestion, because as soon as you tell them what to do, you're coming from a superior place that makes them feel worse. As Vaughan had put in there before, you can't make somebody feel guilty to try and stop them from committing suicide. All you're doing is making the situation worse. But we've got to connect with them in a way in which they realise that we're with them, that, yes, you understand where they're at, that this has been a great weight they've been carrying, but they don't have to carry it on their own, but you're willing to help them with that situation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, society's let people down with that, in that, like when I was in the police, you had something called a Schedule 2, and a Schedule 2 is where you can forcibly arrest someone who's going to hurt themselves or hurt other people, take them to go and get mental health assessment, and then 90% of the time, they're released straight away. Now, Newcastle had a thing where they had a little bit of a cliff. People would just go and jump off, like they were depressed. But they don't have this stuff like what Lance is doing, what Scott's doing, what you're doing with the Campfire Project. Me as a police officer, which I'm not now, but was back then, there wasn't that. There was no one around with that. Like, I'm an empathetic person, so I would always, especially in a small community, it was a lot harder in the city, but when you go to Burke and Armidale and Nambucca Heads, it's easier you can follow up. You get back and you follow up. You ring them up. How are you going? What's going on? You ring up the family. You get their support base around them so that they've got a sympathetic ear. But in the city, and like when I first started, there's nothing there. There's only just starting to be some government some government jobs. I've been applying for a couple of them that are actually doing that now. And it's imperative. Like, let's say you're let down without it. Like, you need that genuine, and you don't have to provide solutions, but they need someone around to just go, hey, okay, you care. And you can give some guidance and mentoring. You might not know. It's not about knowing what to say, but you might know who to put them onto, who might be able to give them some better direction, a better thought process, and make them feel not so helpless, not feel in such a state of despair. It's I don't know. I think that's we're in a better time now than we were 10 years ago.
It is 100% a society issue. It's not an individual issue. Okay,
that's right.
We need to actually take responsibility for this as a society. Okay, because I'm tired of it. I'm trying to get upriver. I'm trying to fix the bridge. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people saying that suicide is selfish. It's not. People don't think they have an alternative. That's our problem. Yeah, because we're not speaking up. Each individual sitting on this panel and anybody watching this, you actually have the responsibility to actually make suicide count. How do you do that? At the moment, we've started a new campaign called Raise a Pen, right? # Raise a Pen. If you know someone who's committed suicide, make them count. Pick up a pen and write down some notes about things that aren't going right in your life. I'm sick of this society that we live in, that we raise a glass for every single opportunity to remember people. It doesn't make a difference. If we're going to get serious about making a difference about our society and about the things that hurt us the most, because we've just heard suicide hurts so many people, and it's an option. So let's take it on. Pick a pen up, write it down, talk, sit with people, listen. I'm currently a part of the Vic Brotherhood, and I'm so proud of these men. So proud. We sit there without anything other than a pen in our hand and paper. We listen to people. We write notes. We sit down with those notes. At the end of the night, what did we learn? Share our lessons. What are we learning? This is how we change. We change by going upriver and listening to each other, because there's enough talking going on. Start listening. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. And I'm sorry I'm hitting you so hard, but I'm done. It's time we start actually putting our actions in place. Yeah? I walk around with bright yellow socks with black dots on them. So someone will talk to me. Geez, they're crazy socks. Shit hot. Thanks for asking. Those black dots, they represent our dark days. We all have them. No one's getting out of this. We all have pain. That yellow, that winter sun, the beautiful winter sun sitting on our back, that real warmth. That's our community, getting around you on your dark days. Because our dark days, they're between our ears. There's solutions. We've got them. Well, we need to talk. I've got a lot of experience in this. And I've never, ever had a situation there hasn't been an answer. Ever. I have never, ever come across somebody who's not valuable. Ever. I've been on the streets. I've been everywhere, done all sorts of different things. Every single person has added value to my life. You are important. I'm going to sit for a second because I know I'm passionate, but I'm telling you,
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
change this. Yeah.
That time you show some passion, Scotty.
Yeah.
Okay?
I'm done with it, Lance. I'm done. I'm done with the bullshit.
And the passion around it is genuine and it's authentic, and that's what makes you Scotty, and that's what makes you amazing, right? But the very experience for a lot of people is just general understanding. Yeah, the general in society, mate. We're coming into contact with thousands and thousands of people every week with in terms of our education and the presentations that we do, and it's just trying to, as I said, help them just genuinely understand. Yeah. You don't have to have every member of society having exactly the same passion that we all do on this screen. Yep. It's just a greater understanding of the situations that people deal with. That's all we ask for. You know, and people's learning experience and people's ways of engaging in these types of conversations in this process is individualised in its approach. And we say this, it's individualised in its approach, but it's collective in its impact. Yeah. So in terms of how that people look at it and how they approach it, that's up to them. But as a society, as members of the society that do work in this space, that lead the way and have platforms that provide opportunities for people to understand it better. So that's our I call it my privilege to help people just understand it that 1% better. If people just keep understanding it that 1% better, that 1% better, that keep going. And then we're all going to be better off. I believe if we start driving these opinions and through to people's, open your mouth, I'm going to put this down your throat and you're going to understand how I'm going about it. That we all know, men, women, whatever, who you are, you back straight up. You're like, I don't want to be a part of this. And I'll shut my eyes to the very idea that this is reality.
You can't convince someone against their will.
Exactly. But just the general understanding, that's all we ask for. We're not asking for people to become the answers, to become the therapists, become the saviors
Like
of this.
what he said, be present. Just be there.
Just be. Just
So
be
true.
right. Yeah. It's
not a matter of finding words. It's a matter of, as I said, just taking space with that person. If you're worried about, well, what do I say to somebody in that state? Forget about what to say. Don't worry about that. And it's not about you. It's about the other person. You don't have to say anything. Just by being there with somebody, it changes the situation. Lance, you talk about that 1%. One way to start the 1%. Whenever you sit with somebody, you change their environment. If you change their environment, even the smallest amount, it changes the way they're thinking. Yeah. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an expert on this. You don't have to be a therapist. In fact, probably better off with most people if they know that you're not a therapist. You're just a human being who cares. And that's the most important thing. And when we all do that, we'll see dramatic changes straight away because people will feel that they have a value, that they're worth something because people are just spending time with them. As you said, so many men are separated from their children. They feel worthless because they can't fulfill that role of being the provider and everything else. They don't feel like they have a worth. Well, as soon as somebody sits down with them, instead of getting into and agreeing with whatever they're feeling, but just spend time with them, that changes things. If you get into the conversation and get caught up in what they're feeling, you manifest it. It's a problem shared. It's not a problem halved. It's a problem magnified in that situation. But if you spend time with them, you don't get emotionally into it, but you are what I call compassionate empathy, not emotional empathy. You change the whole situation. Sorry, Lance, go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. And as individuals, that role is to be played in the initial phases, right? And you talk about that white jacket syndrome that people have with therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. There is a fear of actually that being the first point of contact. But we know that the place that they play, right? They have their role to play in terms of where it needs to escalate to. But the initial conversations and process of people talking about their things, or experiencing and connecting into what they're going through, is obviously usually 95% of the time, first point of contact is the person next to them, or one of their crew, we call it, right? But the role that, I find the greatest, we call it de-escalator or descaler of any emotional situation for anybody that's going through some shit and some stressful experience and going through, like, I want to be freaking out. The biggest thing that I do, and Scotty knows all about it, is my hugs. Yeah, the genuine hug from another human being is the most amazing experience that you'll ever get. Maybe that's because I've been married for 6-7 years, whatever it is. So I want to hug anyone, but it's just that genuine feeling of hugs that we get. That we call, and we do this with kids at school. It's not the we call it the 3 H's: the handshake, the hug, or the high five. That genuine connection of human that we get from those, and respecting of people's position, because some people can't be hugged. Yeah, some people just don't have that. Some people just genuinely love the respect of a handshake. Some people like I don't see there's too many people in this world that don't actually bring a smile up on their face when they get a high five. You get a high five automatically. You talk about that smile thing before, Scotty, is that everyone gives a high five and you get a big smile. It's like, wow, I just high five someone. Who am I? Yeah. But the genuine connection that we have, we just need to play that role in terms of creating that safer space for us all to be involved in, and genuinely just being around, because this is the biggest thing in Melbourne. We talked about at the very start, Scotty, is that the greatest impact that it's had on people in terms of mental health and the reasons for suicide is loneliness and isolation. Yeah. That is the biggest one. And even before COVID, there was the research and the data that was going in. They were talking about loneliness and isolation would be the number one impactor of mental health and suicide within 5 years. Yep. That's just going bang straight up. Let's fast track that. Yeah. Because as you said, John, before, we're in unprecedented times, 100%.
So can I jump onto something right there? Because loneliness we just had this, loneliness and depression is awful, right? So let's get some solutions. Because one of the things that for me, which you just brought up, so I'll get that. I'll work out the technology. High fives. The moment down in Melbourne, we can't give each other a high five, right? We can give each other elbows. Elbows is I love it.
Very aggressive. Very aggressive.
Wait, no, like elbow to elbow, man. Sorry. But give a laugh, give a foot tap, anything. Yeah. Just to have something, an engagement, because one of the best gifts you can give yourself is to get to know somebody. And if you're on your own right now and you're in your own space, pick up the phone. The best thing you can do is to get to know somebody. Just call somebody, pick up someone, go through Facebook, LinkedIn, and like Instagram, find someone you grew up with.
Yeah.
Go and contact them. Just see how they're going. Listen to their story. Just listen to them. Every night inside the Brotherhood, we've got a conversation. Unfortunately, it's men only at the minute. But the guys are in there. We're having conversations. We're listening to each other. And one thing I really want to say right now that's really important to me is I'm actually really proud of everybody. I'm actually really proud of everybody for giving it a crack. 10 years ago, mental health wasn't even a bloody subject. It was something that you had a social worker at school that you try to work through things and, okay, so maybe this, maybe this. Right now, we're an instigator of change by talking about it. There is nothing that's taboo anymore. Nothing. And I'm going to go to my pen, my favorite thing, right? Do you agree this is a pen? Yeah.
Is that your favorite one?
Yeah. Do you agree that it's a black pen?
Let's go, mate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Black pens matter.
Yeah. So it's a pen. We all agree that's a pen, right? There's absolutely no way known that we can all think about this pen the same way. It's impossible because we've all written letters differently. We've all signed different signatures. We've all had different experiences. We're all pens. We're humans. We all have different experiences with different opportunities. There's no way known that we are all can do the same thing or have the same thoughts. So the only way we're going to get to do anything different is to sit and listen and understand somebody's pen. Yeah. So that's for me. I know, Lance, you've got to go, and I want before you go, I want you to give me and everybody else one thing that you can do right now to make a difference.
Cool. One thing, Scotty. We got good enough, mate. The whole session. It's mate, I just think just giving you the person next to you a hug, right, and that'll make just a genuine difference. That genuinely makes a difference. You got to pay some respect to the person that's living through this shit with you. Yeah. And I say, and wholeheartedly with that experience, because without being an idiot, person in my position, and my wife says it to me a lot, right? And I have so much relationships. I present all day, every day, for 7 days a week. I have that many experiences. I create care and support for so many thousands of people every year. Every now and then, sometimes I get so caught up in it that just genuinely just sitting with my wife for a minute and giving her a nice hug in the kitchen is actually the greatest minute of my month. Yeah. So that is what we can all do for each other. Yeah. Just create that connection and just give the respect and the acknowledgement, the very genuine acknowledgement to the people that have got your back. And that's the people that are usually living right under your roof. Yeah. And sometimes because we're so caught up in this world that we forget that the people that actually make us who we are is the person next to us. So make that happen. I do appreciate, and I apologise because, as I said, it's next time I'll allow it be my 6th one and it'll be my 18th for the week, and then it'll be my 120th for the month already. So it's all craziness. We're all going all right. But as I said, good on you. Thanks once again for having me on the Campfire Project. Every opportunity to be a part of this platform is amazing. John, a great pleasure to meet you, mate. Alan and Scotty, you probably got the 2 greatest beards on Facebook at the moment. So keep up, and mate, and keep working your passion, Scotty, because it's amazing and it rubs off on everybody. So good on you. Cheers.
Thanks, Lance. Listen, thanks for joining us. Get around the Love Me, Love You Foundation. They've got a toolbox. Yeah, get into it.
You got lots of stuff.
With the toolbox.
Love me, love you, .org.au, and we'll see how we go. Appreciate it, team. Thanks very much.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now we've got to change screens. Oh, hang on. Now we've got to reposition ourselves too. So,
where do I go?
But there's
a delay on my end, so whichever way I go, it's not going to work out too well.
If I look at the center screen, Alan, do you colour your beard or do you colour your hair? You know it was overdue.
Oh yeah, just call me Papa Smurf, not a worry.
Well, it's funny, because like at the moment, like we're just talking about hair, I'm dying for a haircut. I'm dying to feel good about myself because I can't go out and I can't do anything, and it's bringing up a lot of different things for me at the minute. But here's the thing, I'm getting out and I'm getting involved in groups that support one another. And that's keeping me going. If you want to do something right now, go and support someone. Don't make it about you. Support someone else. You can't possibly do anything but feel good when you support others. So I'm going to, just because of time and there's a few things like this conversation's only just starting. Yeah, this is the start of it. I'm positive we'll have other panels about this, and I'm positive we'll do other things. So I'd love to hear from you, John. What's one thing you could give somebody to do right now? Oh,
I think Lance sort of touched on it before. Like, as Australians, we don't open up. Like, we're only just starting to. Like typically when I was in the police 10 years ago for 20 years, that was the problem. It's all about communication. Alan's all about communication. So are you. We've got platforms now with like the Campfire Project, Facebook, Twitter, all that sort of stuff, which we never had before. Yep. So people are more connected. People are more accessible. Even in remote communities. Like that's what I love about Facebook. I used to work at Burke and Armidale, and I can still keep in contact with people out there, and it's great. And I can see what's happening. You don't have to. You can keep up, and then when you catch up, you go, "Oh yeah, I saw that on Facebook. What was the go with that?" So I think it's about connection is the main thing. I think we're in whilst we're going through a lot of crap with all that's going on in the world. we've never been as connected. And I think the initiative is on the person who sees the person that needs the contact or the communication. And then you can do that and you can get people around it. Like that's something I used to do as a policeman, which not many others did. I'd always follow it up, but I'm empathetic like that. I cared. So I would always follow it up and make sure. It's so much easier with the internet and social media and things like that. So I think, things like this gets people's awareness around. And it's not making people aware that there's suicide. Everyone knows that there's suicide. But it's making people aware that there's answers, that there's things that you can do. There's doesn't matter where you are as far as despair is, there's always hope. There's something you can do. And if you can't do it, there's people around that will help you do it. Yeah. And if you haven't got the answer, there's people around you that have done it and have got the answer. My father, he's 82 now. He lost half his lung 10 years ago. They said, you got lung cancer, and then pulled it out and went, oops, sorry, no, you don't. It was just an infection. And now with COVID, he's been in and out of hospital. I've been like a carer for him. But he's the most resilient person I know. He smoked since he was 6. He was from Cootamundra. His mother left him when he was 14 after his dad died when he was 12. He brought himself up, and his mother spent the last 20 years in his backyard in a big 18-foot caravan with him cutting her hair. He holds he just has a great life etiquette. And his favourite sayings were, things are never as bad as they seem, and someone's always had worse. And it doesn't matter what you come across in life. Things are never as bad as they seem, and someone's always had worse.
I'm going to ask you something there, John. I'm really sorry. But I'm hearing something in you that I really want to know. How proud of your father are you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The strength I get from that is huge. Absolutely huge.
No one hears story.
Can I just jump in and ask you that in that case, how much does he, his story, how much do other people know of his story? How much has that been shared?
Exactly. It's that time. No one does. Because he doesn't talk. You don't have the communication, which we were just talking about with the social media platforms and things like that. Yeah, they don't talk. So, yeah.
So here's a challenge for you, and that think of interviewing your dad, getting his story on video and sharing that. I reckon there'd be a wealth of information. They'd be absolutely brilliant. Think about it. I'll leave you with that.
We're not live. We're not live. We're not doing this on live.
Yeah, right. I'll throw that ball.
Hey, John, you know how to read faces. Read that face on the other side of me.
It's all right, guys. I'm actually going to bring somebody in right now. Shez Cantilli. I'll get it right one day.
That'd be a wealth of information. They'd be absolutely brilliant. Think about it. I'll leave you with
we're not live. Oh, we are live. We are 100% live. It's just way better.
You're a lying shit.
You know how to read faces. Read that face on the other side of me.
I'm hearing you.
Bring somebody in right now.
There's no automatic resistance at all, Alan.
I'll get it right one day.
That'd be a wealth of information. They'd be absolutely brilliant. Think about it.
We're not live. Oh, we are live. We are 100% live. It's just way better.
You're a lying shit.
I don't know what's going on with the screen.
Side of me.
It's always crazy out there. Bring somebody in right now.
There's no automatic resistance at all, Alan.
I'll get it right one day. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to end the broadcast. Oh, we are live. We're 100%. It's just way better.
You're a lying shit.
I don't know what's going on with the screen. Okay, it's coming in through Shez. Okay, sorry, Shez, I don't know what's going on. Have you got your computer? We'll give it one more try. I don't know what's going on. No. I'm really sorry, everybody. We are so live, and I don't know what's going on, Shez. Can you click out and come back in, please? Because I just opened you up, and it just went crazy.
Yeah. While she's doing that, can I just sort of go on a little bit on what John had said, that what was it now before in the we've never been more connected than we have been in the past. But that's one of the problems. We are connected, but we're not talking the right way. If you look at all the stuff on social media, we see everybody's out there to get likes, they're out there to get noticed. It's all about them. It's not about the other person. We're not communicating in a way where we're putting the other person as part of the process, not even ahead of us, but just with us. And changing the way in which we're talking to people, I think, is absolutely essential, because the fastest growing industry on the planet is technology. The second fastest growing industry is coaching, because there are so many people whose lives are screwed up that need help. But we've been using social media. It's been there a long time, but we've been using it the wrong way. We have to get more purposeful in it. When you put something up on Facebook or any of the social media, ask yourself, what's the purpose of this? How does this enrich somebody else's life? Now, if I sit with my grandchildren, for instance, at the table, one of the things I asked them was, what are you grateful for? And that got conversations going. But now I think what we should be asking is, who did you help today? What was one of the great things that you did for somebody else? And see if we can get that happening.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I think there's a little bit of a delay. I'm going to try and add Shez again. John, thank you for your comments just then and talking about your dad, because I think that's one of the most, it's the most powerful thing I've done so far, except for Oscar. Yeah. Except for Oscar tearing me apart in an interview.
Things that you did for somebody else.
No, I'm sorry, Shez.
Do it again. There's a delay.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I think there's a little bit of a delay. I'm going to try and add Shez again. John, thank you. I'm so sorry, Shez. Because it's the most powerful thing I've. All right, sorry about that. So, look, Shez is coming tonight, and listen, we might do that another time because we're giving it a try. And
suggest something, Scott.
Yep.
How about you put John and I back into the out room and just bring Shez in on her own?
Okay, let's try that, because Shez is here for a very important reason. So I'm going to try that now. All right. Hey, this is life, right? We're trying to do this live. There's no holds barred. There's no rehearsal. She's still in. So she's gone. So there's no rehearsal. It is what it is, you know. And life is full of failure. Full of failure. It's the problem. Isn't the problem? The problem becomes how we respond to the problem.
That's it.
If we choose to respond, we can actually go, yes, it worked. No, it didn't. The worst part is zero response. If you don't respond to a problem, that's when it doesn't shift. That's when it stays here. You can fix an action. You can't fix inaction. All right, we're going to give this one more try before I go, well, next time. The problem becomes how we respond to the problem.
That's it.
We choose to respond. I'm going to. Oh, hang on, wrong one. All right, one more try. All right, Shez. All right, here we go. Yeah, you can fix an action. All right, we're going to give. What we're going to do is we're going to try again another one. Next one. Can't hear it. Can you hear me? Okay. It becomes how we respond to the problem. Shez, I'm really sorry, but that's just really interesting. So they're lessons, not failures. That's exactly right. They're all lessons, not failures. Even this is. So we're going to work on that. Listen, Shez has actually come in tonight to talk to us about Tobin Brothers and what's going on. And she's written a letter for the Tobin Brothers community, for people who are dealing with suicide and the families that are dealing with it, because it's that common at the minute. So I'm actually going to ask Shez and I to do a one-on-one now, ASAP, because I want to share that, if that's okay, Shez. You can nod, I can see you, but I can't. Thank you very much. Actually, so all right, beautiful. Well, listen, on that, I'm going to close up shop on tonight. This conversation is only just begun. Yeah. We are getting better at talking about it. There is ways, and you can reach out to any of us. Campfire Project's here for a reason. It's here to start conversations and be a part of a greater community because we're all worth it. Yeah. So on that note, I want to seriously thank Lance, who's gone, but I want to thank John Hope, mate. I think the world of you, and I thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate your time and knowledge.
Welcome. I feel the same way.
Thank you. And Papa Smurf, mate. I've been waiting for that one for a long time. So
you're all jealous of it. I know John is always jealous because he keeps bringing it up.
I never thought there was anyone older than Yoda.
Oh, it's brilliant. So, look, this is the comment. This is Shez, right? So, Tobin Brothers' video was recently released. So powerful to watch. So Shez and I are going to do a one-on-one, and we're going to talk about it. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to continue the conversation, find that one-on-one because it's going to get deeper. We're here for this reason. Every single person's important. So on that, thank you, campers. Thank you, everybody who watched. Guys, get on top of the Vic Brotherhood. We're continuing the conversation from here straight into there. Nearly every night for the last 5 nights, it's been a big conversation. Beautiful people just listening. So anyway, take care, guys. Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you, John. Thank you, campers. See you next week.
See you later.
All right, ciao.